Welcome to the Shenango Board of Education special meeting, August 26th, 2021. Everyone in the building must wear a mask for New York State requirements. We will be dropping our masks only when we speak. We stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, please conduct a roll call. Amy O'Brien, here. Mary Collins, here. Lynn Lockwood, here. Mike Davra,
Here.
Christine Webb, here. We have a quorum. I call the meeting to order. Point one, superintendent's report.
I'm going to do something I don't normally do, and that is read from something that's I've prepared. I have a number of points, and I just want to make sure I get those points to the board. The cabinet and I appreciate the patience you have extended us in creating the reentry plan. It's taken such a long time because the landscape kept shifting as we worked on the plan. We were in a relatively good place in late July, and by August 11th, Broome County was designated as having a high transmission rate of COVID. Schools were promised guidance, and then we were told we were going to get no guidance, and then we were going to get guidance again from SCD, and then we finally got some about 10 days ago. Early this week, a new governor directed the State Department of Health to require universal indoor masking for all New York State schools, including Chenango Forks. This is not a recommendation, it is a requirement to be implemented. We also knew that our liability insurance carrier was working on a position statement that would give the insurer the right not to defend any school district who did not allow masking, did not follow masking recommendations. And by contact tracing was found to be responsible for a student contracting COVID and suffering a long-lasting residual condition or worse, and whose parents then sued the district. Fiduciary responsibility came into play, and that would put us in a vulnerable position. We also felt that while each parent must advocate for their child, our responsibility as school officials is to advocate for all students, from the strongest to the weakest. We need to keep safe those students who are immunocompromised or who come from families where other members are immunocompromised or who cannot receive the vaccine. We also understood that there are strongly held views on both ends of the spectrum regarding reopening requirements in schools. We strongly believe that the best place for our students is in school, in person, every day, with the greatest sense of normalcy we can safely provide. I can tell you that the cabinet has worked long and hard on this plan, and we appreciate your openness to it. So I am going to go down there where I can see the screen, and we'll go through the plan. Easing of restrictions. Can people see this? If you need to move closer. If you need to move closer, feel free to do that. Easing of restrictions. Students will attend school in person 5 days a week with the pre-COVID start and end times. The elementary school students will enter at 8:30. School starts at 8:50 and ends at 2:50. Middle school, high school students enter at 7:15. The warning bell is at 7:38. School starts at 7:40 and ends at 2:17. The remedial session is from 2:20 to 3 o'clock Mondays through Thursdays. And that's pretty much the schedule, as I understand it, that it was pre-COVID. Lockers will be available to students. Hallways will no longer be divided or directional. Temperature screenings and screening affidavits are no longer required. Fully vaccinated people do not need to quarantine after exposure unless they have symptoms. Extracurricular activities will be active. Masking. Indoor masking will be required for all teachers, staff, students, and visitors to school buildings, regardless of vaccination status. Masks are required of all passengers and drivers on school buses, regardless of their vaccination status. There are no physical distancing requirements, as there was last year. The district will promote families sitting together, and seats will be assigned for purposes of contact tracing. Masks are required at indoor athletics and school events. Masks are optional outdoors. Mask breaks will be given throughout the day. Physical distancing. At least 3 feet physical distance between students within classrooms while masks should be maintained. Any adult not fully vaccinated should maintain a physical distance of at least 6 feet between themselves and other adults or students. That's for adults, not for students. Physical distancing is not required on school buses, and physical distancing of at least 3 feet in the cafeteria while in the food line and 6 feet while eating. Mitigation measures the district is supporting are masking, physical distancing, training in hand washing and respiratory etiquette, covering coughs and sneezes, promotion of students and staff staying home when sick or awaiting a test result, support Broome DOH, Department of Health, contact tracing and quarantining, regular cleaning and disinfecting of buses, classrooms, and vehicles and buses, planned upgrades to building ventilation systems. Students and staff should stay home if they show signs and symptoms of infectious illness or are getting tested. Parents and guardians are encouraged to screen their children for symptoms prior to the start of the school day. Sports and extracurricular activities. Students and adults should follow the same school day policies and procedures during athletic and extracurricular activities. Further guidance may be forthcoming from New York State Education Department regarding the need for testing of student athletes in close contact sports and extracurricular activities that involve singing, shouting, band, and exercise. As per section 4, indoor sports will wear masks. Outdoor sports are mask optional. Unvaccinated coaches are strongly encouraged to wear masks outdoors, and physical distancing will be adhered to both indoors and outdoors as much as possible. Band, chorus, and cheer must maintain 3 feet physical distance and be masked. Students playing wind and brass instruments will have masks down while playing their instruments and up while not. Remote learning. While Shenango Forks wants every student to return to in-person learning, it is understood that some students are medically vulnerable. For those students, a remote learning option will be available through a third party, likely BOE. Medical notes will be required for full remote learning, and the district's medical director, physician, will review and consult with the district on each request. Medical requests for the 21-22 school year require a 1-year commitment. It should be made by Monday, August 30th. We're going to be lenient about that because we realize there's a tight schedule right now, and sent to the building principals. Exemption from in-person learning will also exempt the student from being eligible to participate in co-curricular activities such as athletics, music, clubs, fine arts. So if we're exempt from coming to school and we're doing remote, we're also exempt from the other activities after school. Transportation. Masks are required of all students and drivers on school buses regardless of the vaccination status. There are no physical distancing requirements. The district will promote family sitting together, and seats will be assigned for purposes of contact tracing. Students will need to ride the same bus to and from school, except for those middle school, high school students attending the remedial session. 5 days notice is required to make transportation changes. Volunteer protocol. No new volunteers to begin the 21-22 school year. Veteran volunteers may be allowed in the building as they are invited by whomever they report to, and once they have gone through the volunteer reentry protocol. Volunteers must abide by masking, physical distancing, and other COVID-related protocols. Volunteers must present proof of vaccination before they can start. A vaccination card or photo of the vaccination card will constitute proof of vaccination. Non-parent visitors protocol. Visitors must abide by all masking, physical distancing, and other COVID-related protocols. Proof of vaccination will be required for invited essential visitors such as college recruiters, upward bound program personnel, student teachers, interns, etc. Principals will determine whether a visitor is essential if an uninvited, unannounced visitor presents. Vaccination card or photo of the vaccination card will constitute proof of vaccination. Large-scale indoor events with visitors are not allowed at this time. Facilities use at this time, outside groups or agencies are not allowed to use any district facility without approval from the superintendent. Parent guardian information. Parent guardians must abide by masking, physical distancing, and other COVID-related protocols. Parent guardians are asked to make appointments to enter a school building if entry is necessary. Parent teacher Conferences will be held via phone or Zoom, and parents may drop off essential items such as band instruments, replacements for soiled clothing, etc., at each building's main entrance. Birthday treats or food for celebrations cannot be accepted until further notice. Quarantine student protocol. A student exhibiting COVID-19 symptoms will be excused from school until tested for COVID-19. If positive, it will be per local Department of Health guidelines. If negative, student may return as per district illness procedures. If testing is recommended but not done, the student needs to remain home for 10 days from the onset of the symptoms and can return as per district illness procedure if they're 24-hour free, 24-hour free. Students who are medically quarantined or who are self-quarantining awaited a test result or have tested positive for COVID-19 may be provided the following. Middle school, high school students will Zoom into the appropriate classrooms throughout the day. And teachers will post assignments on Schoolology platform. Elementary students will be provided with daily assignments. Seesaw will be utilized in grades K2, and Google Classroom will be used for grades 3 to 5. Quarantine teacher protocol. Teachers who are medically quarantined or who are self-quarantining awaiting a test result or who have tested positive for COVID-19 and are at home may use the COVID remote protocol using Zoom technology to continue teaching their courses. On-site testing. Discussions with Broome County Department of Health are occurring with the goal being to have an agreement with BOE wherein Chenango Forks will be able to offer on-site COVID testing. Protocols for who may be tested, how arrangements will be made for individual tests, what personnel will provide the testing, and circumstances for testing will be created and documented. Lunchroom protocols, physical distancing of at least 3 feet while masked in the cafeteria line, and physical distancing of at least 6 feet while eating in the cafeteria. Attendance protocols, Shenango Fork Central School regular attendance policy, procedures, and consequences will be in place for all students. Students will be expected to be in class, whether in person or remotely, for all courses to which they are assigned. Any section of the reentry plan may be amended through federal, state, or local order or directive. As changes occur, they will be communicated to stakeholders as quickly as possible. And this was finalized on the 24th of this month.
Point two, public comment.
The public wishing to speak to the Board of Education will be allowed this period of time to do so under the following guidelines. Speakers will be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and the entire public comment session to a maximum of 30 minutes. Speakers are requested to stand, state their name and topic. A sign-in sheet may be circulated prior to the start of the meeting to expedite this segment of the meeting. Speakers will not be allowed to personally attack any board member, administrator, or any of the public present. Also, no comments by the speakers will be permitted that deal with executive session subjects, including individual personnel matters, discipline issues pertaining to specific individuals, including students, and speakers will not be allowed to read letters. There's nobody who signed up to speak, but
Now's your opportunity for any public comment. We don't have anyone signed up, but if you wish to speak, now's the time and you get 3 minutes.
I have a question.
Sure.
My understanding is the CDC says if kids are 3 feet apart, that they don't need to be masked. So why are we masking the kids?
We're masking the kids because the state, our new governor has just sent out a directive to the Department of Health that all school districts must be wearing masks universally.
I thought they were following the CDC guidelines. You know,
The state, well, the governor can follow them or not follow them, but they've indicated that there's going to be a masking mandate for all school districts in New York State.
I'd like to say something about that. I'm actually from the Green School District, I mean, it's kind of store, but we're neighbors, and we're all kind of going through the same thing here. And I know personally many board members in Green and superintendent, and I do know, your perspective on this. And I also know that a lot of community members, I think the vast majority really do not want our children masked. We've all been unmasked all summer long. Everybody has, all kids have hung out with each other like normal. I think everyone was hoping that this wouldn't happen, and I realize there's funding, tied to listening to guidelines from the state, et cetera, et cetera. I just asked this question so many times, I've never gotten an answer, and I myself have read through just about everything the CDC has put out, including some of their source studies for, what their logic is. And I still do not see any robust studies studying children. Okay, we just had a year and a half of masking children that we could have been studying. We could have been collecting data on them, we could have been testing their masks to see about the bacteria growth. We could have been testing them with an oximeter to see if their oxygen levels were being decreased. We could have been testing their CO2, in their blood. All of these things we could have done, and I'm not, accusing anybody in the school of not doing these things, but wouldn't that be what we would do under normal circumstances before we just applied a full masking program on children? Under normal circumstances, the first thing that we would try to do is determine whether it was safe and whether it's effective. But first off, safe, and whether it's necessary. And it seems like after a year and a half of this, just slapping masks on our children's face and asking their questions, that we still don't have any of that data. And I've combed through the studies that the CDC cites, and frankly, first of all, their effectiveness studies, there's not a single one that doesn't come out as, well, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, inconclusive. Okay, there's no study that shows strongly that masks work. If you look at graphs of when masks were implemented in various places, and, it's kind of 6 to 1, half dozen of another. And then when it comes to actually studying children, there's only one study that shows that has anything to do with children, that even uses children as the subjects. And they put a mask on a child for 30 minutes, pretty much, and said, I think they're fine. That's all we've done. And I just think we owe our kids a lot more than that. And our kids can't make these decisions. We're the parents, we have to make it for them. And I tell you, I think I know there's some people who are for it. There's some people who believe wholeheartedly it helps. However, I just don't see that there's any science that backs that up. And I think we all know our kids come home with headaches, dizziness, blurred vision, harder to concentrate. It was a very, very tough school year for them. And masking was a huge part of that. Not being able to see their friends' faces, the psychological impact on the kids. And I feel like if we are doing that to kids, we see that with our own 2 eyes, that we should be sure that it's effective and necessary and safe.
Thank you.
My son's mom out, taxpayer. But I was wondering, were the parents surveyed as to what they wanted for their children?
No, they were not.
Why-
No, they were
Why
not.
was
And
that?
out of the 12 recent emails I have received, and I assume the whole board, half of them were requesting a survey. I'm sorry, 5 of them requested a survey, 5 were absolutely against masks, and 2 were for masks.
Nobody thought it would be
But
best
we have
for
not done a
parents
survey.
to send out a survey.
And I would I don't know if I speak for the whole board, I would absolutely be for that. The problem is, our hands are tied now. Our hands are tied because of the governor. And it boils down to, and this is my opinion, it boils down to fear. Because, oh no, if we don't follow what the governor tells us we need to follow by putting a mandate, and somebody sues us because their child had an incident from being exposed into an environment where we weren't following guidelines, our insurance company said they will not cover us.
And will they cover you if there is damage done by a child who wears a mask? unless it's proper?
I suspect they would, yes. They would defend us.
That's the current understanding.
They will cover.
Yep.
If a child wears a mask all day, there's a problem.
I'm as disgusted. I'm speaking for me, not for the board.
No.
I'm speaking as a mom right now, a taxpayer, a human. I'm disgusted by this. I really am. I'm disgusted by it on so many levels. And to stand up here when I go home and my kids are like, really? You're not gonna fix this?
But you guys have tried to talk to the governor, you have, has anybody spoke to the parents?
To the governor? I have not.
Said out of the crowd. I don't know, I don't usually come, but I just concerned about children and parents, I just wish parents would make this.
I wish they could too. Go ahead, Penny.
My name is Penny Merrick, just for clarification, so we have no choice at this time. We can't go against the governor's advice or anything, or are we completely tied to, we have to have our kids masks? Or is there any options at all where you guys are making decisions on this?
Not that I to go against the government.
Can you speak to that a little bit more?
I'm not aware of any options once the governor has issued a directive to the Department of Health that they impose a requirement on whether it's a school district or any place else. That's pretty much the,
Has that been issued or are we expecting it to be issued?
it has been, she has issued the directive, yes. I believe she issued it.
So it's not really even anything to be discussed if you have no choice in the matter, right? Like, there's not a single thing you guys can do to unmask. the
Not that
kids.
I'm aware of.
So she issued a directive to the Department of Health, but has the Department of Health issued anything, any documentation on paper yet? as
It was
far as
ju-
this?
It was just on yesterday, as I understand it. She became governor, I think, on Tuesday. She
Yeah.
issued it on Wednesday. I'm expecting it at any point that they'll be.
What happens if the child refuses to wear the mask? What happens if the child refuses to wear the mask? I mean, then.
It's not any different than if they refuse to obey any other rule of the school. They would, whatever the consequence in the student code is, that's what would be imposed. No more, no less.
Could you at least request the medical proof that the masks work?
I'm sorry?
Could you at least request the medical proof that the masks work? Can we get that? Can we at least get that?
I can make the request to the Department of Health, yes. Yep.
And sorry, not to belabor, but the state of emergency, I was under the understanding that a lot of them had asked her what because there was a state of emergency and then that was, revoked or whatever, or suspended. Does anybody know if that did go back in place? Because, here, it has, right, because, the way it normally works is the legislators legislate and then they, it's not normally governor just speaks things into existence and the Department of Health is a executive.
Before Governor Hochul took place, the state of emergency was lifted and counties were given the right to make decisions. Because of Hochul taking her place and taking that strong stance and stating that this is her directive, she's forcing this hand on us.
Well, I guess I just didn't understand that any governor would be able to do that without the state of emergency. You know what I mean? Like, because governors they don't create laws just by speaking, that's due to the legislators. The only reason we had that scenario was because of the state of emergency. So I know it's very hard. I wish that we were all unified to push back legally on this and bring back some local decision making. And I understand, all of you, the position all of you guys are in also. It just feels like it's, how our kids end up suffering from it, and I don't know when it'll end.
I was really excited when I read Green's reopening plan. I thought it was really liberal and supportive of both sides of the plate. And that was something I was really excited about, hoping for us, and this happened. And I'm 100% against masking. I don't, in the classroom, I was very much for the similar situation, but unfortunately, because I don't know, we can speculate all we want, whether it's because she's new and she wants to show who she is. I was a little disappointed because I understand that downstate's different than upstate, you know, but the locus of control is no longer here locally. It's at that state level, and she's pushing that back towards us.
Yeah, and just some question of legality, you know, I'm state emergency.
So how long are kids wearing masks? Just the 5-minute breaks every hour?
Until the mandate is lifted. Once that's lifted, then I think we can, I don't know what's going to follow that. I would be hesitant to say.
Okay, but right now, it's like they go for an hour, keep it off 5 minutes.
Oh, you're talking about the breaks, the mask
Yeah,
breaks?
mask.
Okay. I think that's going to be up to each one of the schools as the kids get a little older, or you go down the scale, it's going to change, I think, depending upon the need in the.
What are you guys doing for elementary school? 5-minute breaks?
I think it's going to be like it was last year. They had mask breaks last year, so I think they're intending to follow the same protocol they followed last year.
Does anybody know what that was though? Was it 5 minutes every hour?
No, it's less than that because it's got to be less than 15 minutes during the course of the day. That goes back to the quarantine problems. So, and that's what we've tried to do, folks. We've tried to, I mean, we've got all these requirements that are coming at us, and what we try to do is to create as much leeway as we can. So we do have the mask breaks, and we've tried to, we have to confine those to a certain amount of time during the course of the day. So that's what we'll allow.
So to answer your question, they will only be maskless for up to 15 minutes. That's how I'm understanding it,
Unless they go outside. Outside kind of.
while in the building.
Yeah.
Can I ask what the testing in school is?
I'm sorry?
You said something in your.
About testing.
About testing, yeah. The federal government sent a bunch of money to the state, and the state has sent it down to the counties. And the purpose of that is to see if they can provide testing in the schools so that it takes some of the onus off of parents to try and get their kids to Rite Aid or Walgreens or wherever it is they're going to take the kids to be tested. So what we have begun doing, this came upon us late, but we've got our nurses who have been trained. And we're hoping that shortly after the beginning of school, we're not going to be able to get the thing started by the first day of school because of when it was presented, but shortly thereafter, our intent is to be able to have students who need to be tested here at school so that they don't have to go off site. Parents don't have to take them someplace else. It'll also allow our staff to be tested as well. And so if you've got a youngster who had an exposure and has to leave school because they had the exposure, we should be able to provide the testing to find out whether they're negative or positive here at no cost.
Only with parental consent, right?
I'm sorry?
Only with parental consent, right?
Only with parental consent, absolutely, yes.
Any comments from the board? Questions? 3.1. 3.2. The board policy committee met and approved minor changes to update the public inquiries policy number 1440 and the district organizational chart policy number 3230. This meeting will be the first reading, second reading, and adoption will occur on September 9th. They're both attached. Point 3, upon recommendation of the superintendent, a motion to approve the recommendations of the Committee on Preschool Special Education and Special Education. And be it resolved that the Board of Education confirms the recommended placements. Thank you, Mike.
Second.
Lynn, discussion? Roll call?
Amy O'Brien.
Aye.
Mary Collins.
Aye.
Michael Vavra.
Aye.
Lynn Lockwood.
Aye.
Christine Webb.
Aye. Motion passed. 3.4. Resolved upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools that district policy 5152 prohibiting the admission of non-resident students except for children of district employees in accordance with their bargaining unit contract be and hereby is waived to the extent necessary to allow for the 2022 school year, the admission of Julia Tassini, a foreign exchange student participant with the Council on International Educational Exchange, on the terms and conditions outlined within the district standard non-resident student agreement. Thank you. Second. Thank you, Mary. Discussion. Roll call.
Amy O'Brien.
Aye.
Mary Collins.
Aye.
Michael Vavra.
Aye.
Lynn Lockwood.
Aye.
Christine Webb.
Aye. 3.5, upon recommendation of the superintendent of schools, a motion to approve the agreement between the Shenango Fork Central School District and Binghamton University regarding their partnership on the conduct of the Liberty Partnership Program as attached. Thank you, Mike.
Second.
Thank you, Lynn. Discussion?
Have they hired anybody yet?
Yes, they hired somebody, I think today. Steve just sent me an email indicating he's very pleased with who it was. It's, I believe it's a Forks native, but I'm not.
Did Chenango Forks have any role in playing in the hiring? Or no?
Yeah, I think they had somebody that they were involved, I believe, in the interview. I believe that was my understanding.
When will we know the name?
I can get it to you tomorrow. It's on the night.
Roll call.
Amy O'Brien.
Aye.
Mary Collins.
Aye.
Michael Vavra.
Aye.
Lynn Lockwood.
Aye.
Christine Webb.
No.
Motion passed. On recommendation of the superintendent of schools, a motion to approve the attached BU Institute of Child Development contracts for the 2021-2022 school year. Thank you, Lynn.
Okay.
Thank you, Christine. Discussion. Roll call.
Amy O'Brien.
Aye.
Mary Collins.
Aye.
Michael Vavra.
Aye.
Lynn Lockwood. Christine Webb.
Aye.
Motion passed. On recommendation of the superintendent of schools, a motion to approve 4.1 through 4.24 as attached. Thank you, Mike.
Second.
Thank you, Christine. Discussion.
Do we have any idea if we will be continuing these for more than 1 year or just for the 1 year? Any longevity for any of these positions anticipated?
I think those that are, I think there are 3 or 4 that are temporary positions.
Okay. So
Okay,
we're
and
just,
you're gonna have to vote on those annually.
that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Thank you. Okay.
Roll call.
Amy O'Brien.
Aye.
Mary Collins.
Aye.
Michael Vavra.
Aye.
Lynn Lockwood.
Aye.
Christine Webb.
Aye.
Motion passed.
Thank you.
On recommendation of the superintendent, a motion to approve 5.1 through 5.4 is attached. Thank you, Mike.
Second.
Thank you, Lynn. Discussion. What's up?
Gotta get to the page.
Roll call.
Amy O'Brien.
Aye.
Mary Collins.
Aye.
Michael Vavra.
Aye.
Lynn Lockwood.
Aye.
Christine Webb.
Aye.
Motion passed. Point 1. Consideration of executive session to discuss personnel.
Okay.
Thank you, Lynn.
Second.
Thank you, Mike. Discussion. Roll call.
Amy O'Brien.
Aye.
Mary Collins.
Aye.
Michael Vavra.
Aye.
Lynn Lockwood.
Aye.
Christine Webb.
Motion passed. We will not be taking any action when we return. You're welcome to stay until we adjourn. Otherwise, have a good evening.
Vote on the reopen plan?
No,
No.
only if they want to.
Okay, just curious. Thank you.
Mhm.